Well, this morning we'll try and figure out where it all goes from here. A joint interview with two key players, two key independents, Andrew Wilkie and Rob Oakeshott. That's coming up. But before that, we'll see what the Sunday papers are making of this story and others. And Andrew Wilkie said there in that package that he was that he would either move or initiate or move or support no confidence in the Speaker if he's in the chair. But Annabelle, he's gone further now, and the papers this morning is quoted as saying he might support a vote of no confidence in the government.
Yes, that is a rather significant step. Initiating or supporting a vote of no confidence.
Yeah, well, what he's saying is that because up until now the conversation has been around the Speaker, but if Andrew Wilkie would support a vote of no confidence in the government, then that's 74 all, and the government would rely, I guess, on Anna Burke, the acting Speaker,
to shore up the government with her own vote. And if you don't think there would be a procedural catfight about that, then you're sniffing up the wrong tree.
But we'll be certainly taking that a little further with Andrew Wilkie shortly. And David, there's fresh evidence now that John Howard, going all the way back, knew a lot about Peter Slipper's activities.
Yes, this is in the Sun Herald and the Sunday Age this morning. It's not really fresh evidence, it's freshly come to light, Barry, because in 2003, Eric Abetz, who was then the Special Minister of State, was told by his department that there was a real problem with Slipper and his claims for entitlements, that he was being warned, especially warned on taking his family places where he shouldn't be charging the Commonwealth, but he was continuing to do it. The government was so worried about this that they actually prepared a hot issues briefing paper in case it should come up in an estimates hearing. And that was in 2003. So nearly a decade ago, they knew this man was a huge problem. And the article also goes on to say, well, OK, why didn't they bump him? Why did they keep re-endorsing him? And the explanation given here is that he was protected in a faction fight in Queensland by Santo Santoro, and he was therefore entrenched and could not be got rid of.
So it's a faceless men issue.
It's a faceless men issue. It's a faction issue. It's a political party without any guts issue.
But Tony Abbott insists that we were trying to get him out of the Parliament, except that Tony Abbott endorsed him in 2007 in glowing terms for that election, and as that article reveals, he would have been aware, surely, of disquiet, at least, about Mr Slipper's handling of affairs since 2003. And
Mal Brough was trying to get pre-selection for Slipper's seat. Mal Brough's a politician of some standing, and they couldn't get Mal Brough into the seat.
Malcolm, you mentioned 2007, and Sky have reported this morning that around that time, Tony Abbott wrote a glowing reference for Peter Slipper, and they've got hold of the reference. They put it to Christopher Pyne, and he said, well, Tony Abbott's always been too kind to people around him. Not a bad response at short notice.
It's pretty good, and he is noted for his people skills. Peter skills.
But there is a history of hypocrisy on both sides, of course, going back to Mel Colston, and probably what it demonstrates is that you don't try and rip off the other party's MPs because it can end badly.
And as you would remember, Colston resigned at 11:30am by fax, resigned from the Labor Party on Budget Day, August 26, 1996, because you interviewed him that night or the night after.
Yeah, no, but John Howard, of course, had two views on this. One, he condemned the bloke when he didn't need the vote, but then in 1998, when he didn't need the vote, he changed his mind. Have a look at this.
For so long as he stays there and until this matter is resolved, we won't accept his vote.
Well, I think it's something that needs to be perhaps looked at again, because at the moment he's being treated worse than anybody else who's charged with a crime.
And you can certainly say that about Peter Slipper now.
And historically what happens is that people who are a little over-generous to themselves with their entitlement claims and so on, traditionally they tend to be people who are backbenchers, and they tend to be ignored on the whole by their colleagues.
And feel that they haven't had what they deserve.
Sure.
The other party's going to offer it to them.
Look, and I don't think this is overwhelmingly the norm either. The point is that when numbers become this tight, as they did with Colston and as they do now with Slipper, these people's behaviour is put under additional scrutiny within the system because of who they are and because of what their decline and
what
fall
you're saying
might
is one
bring.
side suddenly discovers that they're the devil incarnate in a matter of days.
None of this justifies the notion of making this man Speaker. I mean, it's just an astonishing thing that this guy, who was on the nose for 20-something years in Parliament, becomes the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, and we will get into that bigger issue just very shortly, but let's just round off the papers now, Malcolm, and the budget speculation or the controlled leaks have started.
Sammy Maiden in the Sunday Telegraph says Swan planning to smash the rich, so it's we're getting a few hints, it's a soak the rich budget. There are going to be nasties, but it won't affect you, only those terribly wealthy people. We've already heard about reducing the effective tax rate on superannuation contributions. And the government does seem to have learned. Remember, it got into trouble last budget when it means tested things at a level of about $150,000 a year. Well, it's now doubled that to $300,000 a year, probably hoping to escape criticism that... but still might be somebody who says $300,000 a year is not rich. Sammy reports that there's also, Treasurer Swan is also going to look at a living away from home allowance, which I wasn't even aware of, but apparently executives can take advantage of to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars of tax exemption a year. Obviously, so far, obviously the government is going to say we're going to get a surplus of at least $1.5 billion, and it's not going to affect the lower and middle income earners. We're mainly going to get it from the rich, but at some stage there's going to have to be some reduction either in services or welfare benefits to a whole range of people, whether you're rich or not, in this budget. Otherwise, they're not going to get the dough needed for the surplus.
And Annabelle, and I think I've shown you this story, the Queensland election results, the by-election, and the mayoral election results.
Yes, sweeping changes in local government in Queensland. Just about 2/3 of the local government areas in Queensland have changed mayors overnight.
Really?
About that? Yeah,
Really?
yeah. But anyway, the most eye-catching results, I think, are, of course, the by-election in South Brisbane, Anna Bligh's old seat, which it looks like the ALP, with its candidate Jackie Trad, have just about retained. Despite a swing of nearly 6% against Labor in that seat. The Liberal candidate, Clem Grehan, hasn't given up. He's Labor's claimed victory, but he's fighting on. And Brisbane City Council is now, for the first time in history, according to its new Lord Mayor, it's the first time in Queensland that you've had no Labor representation in the CBD at federal, state or local government levels, says the new LNP Mayor Graham Quirk.
And the Greens did very well in the by-election, didn't they? Something like 20%, I was told.
20% of the vote, yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. I mean, that really is the hell with you, Labor.
Well, it's up from 18 at the state election.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't gone backwards. I mean, that's pretty dreadful news for Labor, isn't it?
Very interesting line here too, incidentally, from Peter Beattie. Heather Beattie bombed out in her quest for Brisbane's central ward in the local government elections. And Peter Beattie says it's all about Peter Slipper, not all about, but he says as soon as Labor dissociates from Slipper and nobody supports him as Speaker, the better. Although it's a bit late for Mrs. Beattie.
I think it's a gathering opinion. OK, well, that's the Sunday papers, and we'll go straight to our program guests now, the two independents, Andrew Wilkie and Rob Oakeshott.